In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at both of our tropical systems out there in the Atlantic and how they are expected to interact with each other. We've obviously been talking about this for a couple of days, and it is a very complex circumstance with these two systems so close together, and we have had significant changes in the forecast from yesterday to today. We're going to be going over all of that as well as the upcoming pattern as a whole, because we do see both major models, the European and GFS model, now suggesting that major cold air is on the way for pretty early on in October, not too far out. So we're going to be discussing that a lot today as well. Now, let's go ahead and dive into things. And obviously, we can see that Hurricane Humberto is now a Category 4 hurricane. Very, very possible that it becomes a Category 5 because it's expected to remain at least Category 4 status all the way by the 29th to 2-ish days from now. So we're going to be watching that very closely. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. And if you watched our video 2 or 3 days ago, we talked about how the stronger this system gets, the more likely that it has influence over our system here in areas further west, closer to the East Coast. And we can see that that effect actually has been the trend here with a lot of our guidance. As this one makes its way, as you can see, very, very far westward compared to what we expected at certain points as well, this is going to have an influence on this storm. And currently, the National Hurricane Center has this one curving out to sea before it even gets to South Carolina or North Carolina. It is worth noting we do have rainfall around for these eastern areas right now, and with a pass by with this storm this close, it would bring additional precipitation and likely even some winds to the coast of South Carolina, Georgia, and even southern North Carolina with this current projected track. So this wouldn't be without impacts, but this would go without a direct landfall with this current situation. So let's look at the satellite imagery for both of these systems, and we'll start out with our major hurricane out here. And this is just a monster, really organized system. Again, extremely strong. And this is by far going to be the dominant system over our one that is further west. And that is why it has that pulling power to pull that storm out of the way of the East Coast. Perhaps. I still am not ruling out an East Coast strike, but that is looking much less likely than it did yesterday. So let's navigate over to our more concerning system for the East Coast here. And this one is Tropical Depression 9 right now. So it is in between, obviously, just being a tropical wave and tropical storm, likely to become a tropical storm maybe by later this evening over the Bahamas. And we can see a lot of these clouds getting their act together, a lot of organization happening over just the past few hours, this explosive upward growth with these clouds. And I would say it's not very far off from becoming a tropical storm, and especially once it clears over this northern coast of Cuba, and a lot of this is over open water, that development is going to happen a lot quicker. It's also worth noting that this system is not very far away from this east coast of Florida either, so don't be surprised if they end up seeing some rainfall and some wind from this whole ordeal as well as high surf can be expected. So let's go ahead and dive into some model guidance, talk about the impacts, and then again, we do have a lot of cooler times ahead to potentially talk about as these models have really, really switched their gears on what they're expecting for the upcoming temperature pattern. Now, this is an interesting graphic. Again, we've been using this website for a few days now, polarwx.com, and this is actually update by update every single National Hurricane Center forecast basically for this system. The yellow one is the oldest one, so that was their original projection yesterday afternoon time frame, and you could see that was first off further to the east, and then it had it curving westward towards South Carolina. The update following is this red one, which is the first one to really suggest that this one is going to curve eastward actually, and then the purple one is the one following that, the 6Z run from today, this morning, and you can see that one had that curve happening sooner. And now the black one is the most up-to-date outlook, and you can see that's even further south with the curve, and you can see it aggressively pulls to the east well offshore. It is worth noting that we have had a lot of these models obviously show this type of a track where it's heading out to sea, but we have had a lot of them Well, first off, we've still had some showing an onshore type track, so that is not ruled out even by the models. And also, we have had plenty of them actually show this curvature out to the east and then some sort of loop back towards the coast. So that can't be ruled out either. And I know this is just a messy, messy track to try to forecast because there's so many influences and things out there. It's a very complicated system, but that is just the possibilities as I see it right now. That's your three major possibilities: a curve straight out to sea with no impacts, direct impacts, a initial strike, kind of more similar to the oldest outlook that we can see here, is still on the table, and then again that out to sea and then kind of just looping back towards the east coast again can't be ruled out either. Let's take a look at some of our intensity models here, and this is actually up from the 6Z update that I looked at earlier. Originally, really, they were rolling out category 1 hurricane being a possibility or likelihood at least. Now we see a majority of these models, I think even that black one, which is the National Hurricane Center, have it reaching category 1 status. The only one that doesn't get us there is the HMON model, which is a hurricane model. And you can see that track right here just barely doesn't make it to category 1 status. But with the exception of that one, every single other model is getting us there to category 1 status, and there's even 2 that get us to category 2 and even 1 that gets us up to category 3 and eventually 4. But keep in mind, this is a serious outlier at this point because it's the only one showing any sort of rapid development there around the days 3 through 4 time frames. So keep that in mind as well. Let's take a look at some of these spaghetti model tracks. First off, your GFS ensemble model. We've seen a lot more of these members start to pull off to the east than we saw yesterday. Still, again, there's many members that show an East Coast strike, and for this update for this GEFS model, I would say it's probably 50-50 between how many models take it westward and how many models take it eastward, about 50-50. Almost every single one of them agrees on the northward track up until that point, and then they just completely split. Your European ensemble model, this is the 6Z update again. The 12Z updates did come out a little bit more bullish or a little bit more leaning towards that out to sea track, but this is the most recent update we have to show you. We do see, again, many of these members hitting South Carolina. Many of these members as well, probably about half of them are also heading out to sea. So again, about a 50-50 split there. Here's your Canadian ensemble model, which is probably our first one that has more showing out to sea than into the southeast coast. So this one came out actually at 0Z last night. So this one was kind of ahead of the curve for sure. And then your Google DeepMind model that we've been showing daily here with this one continues to show an out to sea solution. This is extremely similar to what we saw from this model 2 days ago. This is hardly different. So really impressive stuff if we actually do get this curvature out to sea in a more innocent really result from this system, because this model has been really consistent with this curvature out to the east offshore solution. I'm going to be highly impressed with this model if it does in fact end up doing this, because again, this one has been very, very consistent. Here's your past 30 days of temperatures, as we're going to kind of segue into more of a temperature segment of the video. We can see this is as of 6Z 27th, so today is the past 30 days. So this is the final 3 days of August into the first 27 days of September. Still holding on to some blues here in the east. Obviously, it's been a bit warmer. Mostly the past 2 days, it's been a little cooler today than the days prior. So I suspect we will finish the month up with plenty of this blue still around. And really, this orange and red is even more consistent in the west. I think it's too late for them to really switch from this. So we might end up with actually a picture that looks quite similar to this by the end of the month, believe it or not. Looking at the storminess, of course, again, like I mentioned earlier, we do have storms around for the southeast currently. As we kind of just keep this going through the coming days, we see this system by Monday is right around just to the north of the Bahamas here. Again, precipitation still around for the southeast, probably being aided by the tropical system by this point as well. We do see the west is actually quite active as well. That's similar to yesterday's model runs also. And this system on the European model gets very, very close to South Carolina and North Carolina. Again, outer bands reaching into South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia here. Even some inner band type stuff for the immediate northern coast of South Carolina and the immediate south southern coast there of North Carolina, getting more direct impacts. But as we can see, this storm is going to curve out to sea on this model run. And we do end up much drier, but look at what ends up happening. A pretty serious Arctic blast moves in, and this happens as we get a huge surge of warmth out west. This is by the 10th, so this isn't the long range. Take it with a grain of salt, but your jet stream looks really intense for a cooldown that is swinging in from the west, and this would be pretty brutal. Southeast still quite active. This is quite a ways away from now, still seeing a lot of activity. We actually do see a low develop on the front end of that trough, a pretty common occurrence. And it kind of works in tandem with a weaker low that's offshore to create a very stormy situation in the northeast and mid-Atlantic, which is still much needed, even despite all the precipitation that we have seen. The GFS model with the hurricane is going to have that one come even closer, but to the Florida, kind of Georgia, South Carolina coast, and then curve offshore very similarly to the European model. It tries to make a comeback, but it doesn't end up striking. But watch the Arctic blast on this model as well. It's still in the very far range, but we do have a stronger push of warmth up the west, which again we call a positive PNA, and that forces the cooler air down into the east, and we see an even stronger effect of this on this GFS model run. Way more aggressive, and we see really cold conditions for like the 10th, 11th, 12th here along the east. Way cooler than normal for sure. And again, we get a lot of storminess in the mid-Atlantic northeast area because of that. As we keep going, it does flatten out eventually. We're going to move into the precipitation stuff, but we will look at the temperatures in a moment. North central states, just like yesterday, is above average. And then a lot of the west is as well. And the areas impacted by this raininess that we have now and then this eventual tropical system moving through end up with really healthy amounts of precipitation. The effect that we've had with this one being projected as of now to not strike into the southeast is that these absurd numbers like 10, 15, 20 inches of rainfall completely stay offshore. And we actually end up with like a maximum of 3, 4, 5, 6 inches here, which is a lot more manageable. Could still cause flooding concerns, of course, for these areas, but you're not looking at catastrophic potential flooding like you would with 10, 15, 20 inches of rainfall. This is incredible news because these areas do need some precipitation, and I would say this is a good amount comparatively to extremely excessive amounts. So I do like this update overall. Precipitation anomalies, the west is above average in spots, and then again, areas with tropical impacts here are looking at above average amounts as well, with mostly below average for everywhere else, believe it or not. Pretty crazy stuff. Now for your temperatures here, we can see, again, we're warmer. As we move towards early October, we start to see a shift. It starts out here right around the 5th, 6th, warmer than normal conditions here along the west and cooler air moving eastward. This push is going to be more evident on this model than the European model, but look at that Arctic blast. We are looking at 10 to 15 degrees below normal in the greens. In those purplish blues, 15 to 25 degrees below normal. And this is all coming due to this really strong column of warmer air out west that extends far northward into the Arctic, and it displaces that air and forces it into the eastern states much further south than it normally would be. So we get our daily emojis there. That lasts for a few days all the way to the 13th. So this is a long range potential thing that's going to happen. Take it with a grain of salt. This is the first we're seeing of it on the model here. And so we're watching very closely. As we move into the European model, we can see that we do get a similar cooldown. It is not quite as intense, but this does happen at the same time frame, 11th, 12th here in the east. Really something that we need to be watching closely. Again, the trend is going to be our friend if we continue to see this day after day after day, but this is happening at the very end of the model runs, and this is the first day that we're seeing it. So I don't want to act like this is a strong probability or anything yet, but it is a sign that we have the potential for a big pattern shift there at some point, you know, around the 10th of October. So we'll be watching that very closely with you guys. With all that being said, we upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.